Hi. So continuing with documenting and making physical my experience, my daily experience. So today I realized a bit more what silence means and what it means to live silence as myself and a clearer experience of what it means to remain here as silence, as breathing. However, an interesting uh, happening that I found that I was still living is that within this silence, which is sometimes interpreted as inaction, compulsive, even violent reactions to act by thinking and judging the way I used to. And again, to find that stimulation. So to go back into the old familiar pattern of living that I have lived and established for a long time until now. So, example, after physical education, gym class, PE class, went back home, and two other girls happened to be going to the same place that I was going. So, at one point, I usually go to one exit at the subway, but they were going to the other one, so I just went along with them, and then eventually we parted at the outside of the exit, and I noticed myself at that moment basing my self-worth and self-standing onto these two girls, and then at first I judged myself for doing that, something along the lines of, "You are here. Why the fuck are you abdicating your self responsibility to yourself, you cunt?" And then I had to wrangle and push myself to forgive myself. And I'm very grateful to myself to push myself to do it, because if I did not, I would have suppressed it and gone into a time loop where this point will keep on manifesting and compounding until I actually address the point the way I did through living self forgiveness. And also in realizing a bit more of what it means to remain here, I realized that I am the cause of my distress, any distress, and I actually create it. And also in that, revealing to myself the sheer ridiculousness and irrationality of holding on to beliefs that I am less than another person, or to be more relevant to my own life at the moment, how I insist on myself not being good enough to be able to study effectively and assimilate information effectively and efficiently and extremely quickly within myself. And I see where my self-responsibility is within that. And of course, this cannot be contrived by creating an idea in one's head. It can only be realized, and that is done through applying self-forgiveness, self-honesty, and self-corrective application in every moment. More of that is shared and suggested and elaborated on destiny within the destiny material. I suggest you begin with the articles because the articles give you a practical framework in which to work with the method suggested at destiny. Moving on, what else occurred in my day? Yes, also fascinating thing. During my PE class, we were rock climbing, and remaining here, I saw there was no fear in me of doing rock climbing first, so I simply went first. And in going first, I noticed my guy classmates, they looked at me in a very interesting way, and as they observed me going to rock climb and taking initiative to do it, they in turn did it, and in fact did it a few more times than me, as if me taking initiative somehow made them inferior to me in front of the girls also in the class. So to be more clear on it, what happened was there was a wall, there were 4 posts where 4 people can rock climb at the same time, and about 15 to 20 people will take turns rock climbing. So that was an interesting observation of how people en masse, people en masse participate in secretly feeling inferior and never practically addressing that through self-honesty. And of course, one can only be self-honest if one self-forgives what one see in self-honesty. So, sharing that interesting observation today. What else? Going back to my previous video, now taking self-responsibility for what I said in that self-sharing, speaking physically now, my self-responsibility within my parents and my adults' abuse of authority. And the point where I take responsibility is no longer, in a sense, no longer caring about whether my parents abuse me or not, because in reality, they cannot abuse me they can only abuse me by my acceptance and allowance, especially in this case when we are talking about imposing a certain belief system about life. So instead of reacting in the same way my parents reacted to me by trying to emotionally justify myself in vlogging, rather recognize that I decide within this situation of, for example, whether I am to participate in destiny or not, and to trust myself to see the common sense and the practicality of either choice, and then making a choice and committing to a choice in seeing the practicality of one choice over another. And the practicality is evaluated by asking the question, what results, what consequences will come out of choice A, and whether those consequences will be best for all. Because to settle for something that is not best for all is to accept and allow abuse, because it'll only be best for some, implying that other people will benefit or even suffer, which in either case is unacceptable when practically considering how to live equality and oneness, where equality means everyone is treated equally. And the Bible has stressed this, but people have not actually lived it and not learned how to live it. And that statement is, treat thy neighbor as thyself. And that is exactly what I'm trying to do. And that is where my self responsibility is within that situation. That is all I have to share. Thank you for watching. Today has been a lot of minutes of vlogging. Thank you for listening.